Hi everyone, I'm Danielle Byington, your English instructor for this composition course. And in this video, we are talking about your third essay, which is called Cultural Intersections. And that's really just a fancy way of labeling unit compare contrast. I'm sure a lot of you have done a compare contrast essay. If you haven't quite done a formal one yet, you've had to do those exercises in class, especially in English classes. So let me go over the assignment for you. You find it by, I'm just clicking on one of my 1010 classes. These layouts are identical no matter which section you are in. Click on the course, click on content. And when you scroll down in the column, you have unit 1, 2. We are now in unit 3, cultural intersections, like I just said a moment ago. And then you have your submodules. So you have one called cultural intersections assignment materials. And then one beneath that, assigned reading and watching. Just like the other two units, I'm doing the exact same pattern. There are no tricks here or anything. There's nothing you're missing. This is just like before. All the reading and watching assignments are there, and then any content you would need for this essay is right here. So when I am actually looking at that assignment, here are the things I want to cover about that for you. In a nutshell, as a compare contrast essay, you're going to be doing one of two things essentially, because the topic is up to you, except for that little disclaimer at the bottom. And I'm going to talk about that in a moment about the handful of particular things that you are not allowed to write about. So you will either write about something that is an adaptation that can be as bluntly as the word sounds, like a story adapted to a movie or a TV show. It can also be something that already existed in one form of media and it's recreated again, a few decades later in that same form of media. So it's an old compared to its new. And the sorts of things you would be looking at in that are just like the cultural differences. That's how you answer the question, so what? Like, why does it matter that we look at this? You're looking at like what has changed since then? What were the audiences like then? What are the audiences like now? Or in the respective time period of your more current version of whatever it is you would be talking about. The other option is I call it a then and a now. And it kind of overlaps with the one I was just talking about, but these are things that are maybe less media, less entertainment, a little more concrete. One example would be maybe whatever you're majoring in is something you could do a compare contrast of a then and now. Things like nursing or pretty much anything in the medical professions, things like accounting, teaching, different kinds of professions, even things like the study of philosophy or the study of law. It doesn't have to necessarily be the profession or the practice. It can be like the study of it, like how have these things been taught over time. It can be any other array of professions as well. It doesn't have to be something that's necessarily your major or related to it. It can be a place, like a city. Let's say like you compared 1800s New York City to New York City today. You could pick specific points of time. You could decide like, okay, talk about it like how it's changed like every 20 or 30 years. Whatever you need to meet your word count and then also your outline. So I have an outline for you, a suggested outline, but you'll probably use something like this. Remember, when I give you these, I'm just using the traditional 5-point essay, as it's called. 5 points doesn't mean 5 paragraphs. Please remember that. And your last one, it probably might have worked out about that way because that had a shorter word count. But here in your comparison section, it's just a section that might be two paragraphs. You might have another two paragraphs for contrast, and then maybe you just have one paragraph for so what. But anyways, in your outline, you're going to have an introduction again, and you're going to talk about comparison. What that's all that is you're talking about what's similar between the then and the now, or the story, the whatever it was, the book, whatever it was, the fragment of some kind of narrative, and compared to its adaptation, whatever that is, a movie, a comic book, whatever it might be. And so how are those things similar? And then contrast is just now you're talking about the differences. Then so what? We talked about that question last time in the aesthetic response essay. I want you to work on exercising that again. So this is helping you build up more of your skill of speaking abstractly about things. You have to understand the value of why you are doing something, because this will affect you no matter what your field is, and eventually whatever your career will be. Okay, so besides the outline, you then have some requirements. So these are, when I say this is basically the things I'm looking for when I grade it, and things I try to help you strengthen as we go into the final essay in a few weeks. So you must work on having a refined thesis statement. This section of composition, well, you're in composition 1 if you're watching this video. This isn't about strictly argumentative writing. You're not as concerned about making an argument, but I'm trying to get you there by having refined expose kinds of thesis statements, like have some detail to it. Don't leave it really vague. Okay, topic sentences. So one reason we're going to do that might sound kind of elementary, but a lot of you need to work on them. When you have good topic sentences, then you're not going to have to worry too much about your paper being organized, because the topic sentence, it's like the address of a house. It tells you like what it is, it tells you what street it's on, it might even tell you who lives there. So it tells us what's going to happen inside of that paragraph, what generally is going to be discussed. Okay, and then your sources. Last time in the aesthetic response essay, you had 2 required sources, and I just gave those to you because I wanted you to practice inserting quotes so we can work some of that out. In this one, I'm giving you 2 chapters where you choose one, and if you end up using both, that's fine too. But one is about adaptation, and the other is about appropriation. You're going to read those. Those are assigned in this week and the next week. The Julie Sanders PDF. It's in D2L. So no matter what you're writing about, even if you're writing about something like I gave the example of you're writing about New York City like 200 years ago compared to now. Don't think of adaptation and appropriation as terms that are strictly related to just like somebody adapted a book into a movie. Cities adapt to civilization over time. Trends in fashion and vanity, like one of the reading assignments you'll have in this unit about extremes of vanity. Those adapt over time. And they also appropriate because they borrow from other places in the world and other time periods even. Okay, so you're also going to find one source on your own, because you must be able to do that before you leave this class, before you go into the last essay, for the definition unit, so that you are familiar with not just using the ETSU Library's website, but more importantly, learning how you're going to search for things no matter what class you're in, and you have an assignment and you have to have sources. It's not always going to come up word for word in your keywords search. You need to be able to learn how to flex and bend your keyword searches. As I say it here in the assignment page, you back the lens out sometimes and take some of your really specific language out of your keyword search. Make it a little more ambiguous. Things that are psychology articles and sociology articles, I find, tend to be broad enough to suit a lot of the things people talk about or choose to write about in this unit. All right, so those are our requirements. The last thing I have for you in this video covering this assignment is this down here in the very bottom, things you may not write about in this paper. So back when I first started teaching, at the time I'm recording this is fall 2025. It's been 8 years ago. I tried to be cool and be like, oh yeah, you guys can write about whatever you want. And that was a terrible idea. So just like 95% of people who teach composition classes, I have this rule now too. These are the things you can't write about. And a lot of people have like a super long list, which is still pretty cool. And I don't do that. But three particular things and then one kind of thing on the side here. Legalizing drugs, for or against it, abortion, for or against it, gun rights and gun reform. That's totally up to you which side of the aisle or in the middle or like you're on a chair or you're on the floor, whatever you are about those things. That's you, but you are not going to write about those topics in this paper since this is kind of an open topic. Well, it is an open topic essay. The reason for that is, remember a few weeks ago in the course, we first kind of studied the use of ethos, pathos, and logos. Those topics are very like just tethered to people's ideas and they get like so emotionally charged. The papers are just a total byproduct of sheer pathos. It's all emotional. And I just feel like students aren't really learning the assignment at hand, so we're not doing this. And the other side topic here is if you do choose to write about something that's like a political scenario, like a war or legislation or a particular politician, you can do that if it's 20 years ago and further back. That's a common rule in a lot of composition classes because then you're not again not going to be so attached to the element of pathos in the writing because I am still wanting you to learn, just like I mentioned in the aesthetic response essay assignment, to learn to perfect writing objectively. Okay, that's all for this assignment, and you know how to reach out to me if you need me. Thank you.